Hello guys, changing the screen, the glass screen on a iPad Air white one. So it's that's the actual replacement part. That's the original, which is cracked and damaged. What you'd have to start off with doing, as I'm once again recording this as I'm carrying out the job as well. I'm not going to be able to sort of record it as I'm doing it. I still haven't invested in a tripod or anything to hold up this camera, which I think I showed the amount of videos I've started making just recently. So what you do once again is heat up the edge all along with a hot air gun or a hairdryer. Either one will work perfectly fine. You want to do it on a reasonably high heat for about a minute or so all along the edge. What that will do is that will loosen up the adhesive glue that's holding the actual glass screen down. And then what you want to do is use a prying tool, something similar to that. You sometimes do get parts that come with your replacements. You go in the top edge, at the top edge, you start with the top edge, and then you get something sort of like a small plastic part like that, or you can use a thin plastic card of some sort. Once you've got the prying tool in there, you'd use the plastic to go along the edge. And then what that would do is slowly take all the adhesive off and lift the screen up from the edge. Be careful not to get too close or go too far in on the right hand side there. So you've got the home button on the right. On the right of the home button on that side there, you've got some connectors which actually connect and work your digitizer and work your screen. So if you do damage them, you're going to have to replace the actual screen again. You could end up doing some more damage than initially, bigger problem than you initially had with the iPad. So you want to be very careful not to cause yourself any further issues. Once obviously you've done that, it's a case of lifting the screen up and over to the right. If you've seen my previous video of how to change the battery, the job's pretty much, well, the parts, the stages that you're carrying out this job in is pretty much identical. You start by obviously heating up the adhesive. You take the adhesive, you take the screen off, you lift it off over to the right. Then you've got the digital screen. Once I've done this, I'll show you once again. But then you take the screen off, and that goes onto the right hand side. Well, turn it this way. That goes over there. Digitizer goes to the right hand side. Then you can obviously disconnect the connectors and take that glass part off, and then use obviously the new glass screen and connect up the connectors. Right guys, so I've got that screen off now, and as you can see, that's the part that I was referring to. You've got to be very careful, obviously, not to damage that once you're trying to get that adhesive loose and go around the edge. So what you want to do at this stage is there's 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to loosen those screws, remove those screws, and then obviously take the screen off. Use a prying tool, get into the edge there, lift the screen up and over to the right. Once you've obviously taken that digitizer off, put it to the right, you've got a bracket here, 3 screws, 1, 2, 3. You want to loosen those 3 screws. That comes off. That what looks like a connector there is actually part of the bracket. You take that over, and then you've got 3 connectors for that glass screen that you want to replace, which are underneath that bracket. Remove them, change it over with your replacement, and then obviously work in reverse order, as you did to obviously remove the parts to then put them back in order. And put everything together. Right, so you've got that off. You want to use your prying tool to just one, two, this one here, it actually clips up. From the left side. If you don't know that, it'll be very difficult to tell by looking at it. Once you've done that, you then take that out. Might be a bit adhesive off before that comes off. Right, so that's the new part. Again, put that cable in place, clip that down, clip that in, click that in. Case of putting screen back down with the bracket back down. So the bracket's back on. Sit the screen back down in place. Once you've got that back down in place, again, 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, put them in place. What you might want to do first is clean that screen. Obviously, if you've, because you've obviously touched it, you've got finger marks on there, give that a clean prior to putting the screws back in, or you could do it after putting the screws back in, as long as you're doing it before you put your glass screen over, just so it's clean for when you want to start using it. Giving that screen a quick clean, screws are back on, putting the glass on now. Back on. Oh, I'll have to come back once it got some charge. Right, back again. There we go. So screen's working fine now. So you can take that off as well. And there we have it. All working perfectly fine.